Have you ever thought they just don't care? They don't turn in their work. They whine about everything. They talk constantly. They act like none of it matters. And by they, we're talking about your students. And when you're standing in front of that energy all day long, it's exhausting. The word apathy comes up a lot in conversations with teachers because student apathy is a real issue for so many. And while apathy can be seen as maybe a generational flaw or laziness, that's only probably partially true. In many cases, it's something a little deeper, and we're going to uncover that today. Hey friends, welcome to Enjoy Teaching Again, the podcast for teachers who love the work but need a little spark to bring the joy back. I'm your host, Elizabeth Peterson, classroom teacher, arts integration specialist, and passionate educator of over 25 years. If you're overwhelmed by behaviors, disengaged students, and long, exhausting days, you are not alone. But together, we can turn things around and you can teach with confidence and purpose again. So locate that cold coffee of yours, find your favorite pen, I know you have one, and let's dive in. It's time to get inspired and enjoy teaching again. You know, I see you. You're struggling to keep your students' attention. You're frustrated with the fact that you don't have any flexibility in your content anymore. You've tried the typical hacks and it just didn't really work out. Maybe you're tired of repeating directions 12 times a day, tired of students blurting out and shutting down. Maybe you're tired of feeling like your creativity has to live in a tiny corner because there's just no time for that. And maybe you're wondering if you can even do this job for another 5, 10, or 15 years. You're not crazy. Things have changed. You're not failing. You're actually a really good teacher. Heck, you've been at it for quite some time, haven't you? And you're definitely not alone, but if nothing changes, nothing changes. Look, I want to show you why my reset framework can get you to the place where your students are paying attention, engaged, self-regulating, and actually learning while you're teaching. I want you to stop piecing things together. I want you to stop looking around for the answer because I think you may have found it. I want you to start looking forward to going into school every single day. I'm going to help you to reset your classroom and we're going to improve student behavior in the most effective way. All right, so are you in? Go to theinspiredclassroom.com/reset and see if this is the thing you've been looking for. Teaching can be so hard. You plan the lesson, you show up ready to teach, and instead you spend the whole block managing side conversations, reminding students to work, begging kids to just raise their hands and give this a try, and wondering why everything feels like you're pulling teeth. You might even start questioning yourself, thinking, am I doing something wrong? Why don't they just care anymore? That has happened to me so many times, just in the last few months. But here's the harsh truth. Most of the time, this apathy isn't just about laziness. It's a signal of something deeper. Students will start to disengage and show that apathy with what's going on when they don't feel competent, when they don't feel connected, or when they don't feel like their significance even matters. When one or all of those things are missing, students start to check out. Think about one of your students right now who's showing signs of apathy in the classroom. Maybe they're thinking, can I actually even do this? Or maybe they're thinking, does anybody here even notice that I'm here? Or maybe they're thinking, what I do inside this classroom, it doesn't even matter. And when students check out like this, we often reach for strategies that can actually push them further away. Maybe we'll try, bribery systems. Maybe we'll threaten them with grades. Maybe we'll give them a warning about a consequence or even give more worksheets. Maybe you've taken away some recess or publicly called a student out. And listen, we've all tried some of those strategies at some point. Maybe you even tried it yesterday. But the problem is that most of those strategies will actually increase the power struggle. Have you noticed that? And it will actually deepen the disconnection, which makes the apathy grow even more. What disengaged, apathetic students actually need isn't more pressure or what they might interpret as a threat. They need more connection to the learning experience. Now, this takes some time to consider. That's why I'm so glad that you're listening right now. You've probably recognized that you've done that type of power struggle type solution in the past, as I know I have. But now let's look at how we can change that in a proactive way by seeing how we can embed more connection into what we're doing in the classroom. And this can be humbling work, but it will make you a stronger, more effective teacher, I promise you. Because the truth is that you have so much influence in your classroom. One of the biggest things I want you to understand is you continue on this journey with me to truly enjoy teaching again, is that no matter the curriculum you teach, no matter the students that are put in front of you, no matter the rushed pacing guide that you have to keep up with, you have influence in your classroom. And I want you to be empowered by that. So today, I want to talk about 3 types of connection that you can start to create for your students that will influence their engagement and their behavior. And all 3 are done with connection. So instead of asking, how do I just make them care? They're so apathetic. Try asking yourself instead, where can I create some connection? So one place that you can actually create connection is to you. When students feel invisible in the classroom, they start to disengage. And this is where you have an incredible amount of influence. For example, I really make an effort to touch base with every single one of my students every day. Because let's face it, we can get sucked into paying more attention to certain students for a variety of reasons, right? Maybe they're constantly in our faces. Maybe they're in need of actual attention from us because of their behavior or their academic needs. Maybe their personality is just so magnetic that you can't help but give them more attention. I know I've had plenty of students in all of those categories. And I also have many students who are quiet, who are shy, who are just so focused and so good and doing the right thing all the time that they can very easily fly under the radar and have a successful day with really little input from me. But those students can also feel neglected or ignored or feel like they're not as important as the others. I'm curious if you have some students in mind as I'm describing this. A completely different way to look at this in terms of how students need to be able to connect with you as their teacher is the students who do get your attention a lot of the time. These students may feel like they're always having to be spoken to, always getting in trouble. I'm thinking of one of my students, or actually a couple, who every time I say their name, they roll their eyes and they're like, oh my gosh, are you seriously having to talk to me again? And that makes me feel so bad because they may be interpreting all of my communication with them as negative, when in fact what I want is for me to be able to address things with them and have normal conversations with them and help them to be successful during the day. But if they think that I'm always on their case or nagging them, then the connection can also be lost. So not only is it important to be able to connect with each student during the day, or if you have a lot of different classes every few days, it's also important for those connection points to be positive. Now, there are so many ways, effective ways to do this. In fact, I lay out 32 different strategies inside the Classroom Reset that help you to build these connections. But I want to give you 3 of my favorites that you can just slip into your day today. So here we go. Tiny strategies. First and foremost, greeting students by name at the door. Now be careful to not just gloss over this and say, yes, of course I do this, because I feel like it became like a thing for all teachers to implement over the last few years. And if you're like me, you could be like, well, of course I greet my students every single day. But then I actually pause and I think about it and I remember, oh, well, yesterday I was so busy writing the morning message on my board that I missed a few students coming in, and they came in like they were crazy. And I really could have set myself up a little bit better if I adjusted to truly stop what I was doing and to go to the entrance of the classroom and really greet each student. It's so worthwhile just thinking about and reflecting on if you are indeed greeting every student by name at the door. Another tiny strategy is a 30-second check-in during work time. I love when I give my students independent work and they are actually working and focused and engaged. That's like my opportunity to really go around and check in on every kid that I possibly can in that time frame. Just making that connection, maybe putting my hand on their desk or giving them a thumbs up or, asking how they're feeling about the work that they're doing. Just having those 30 seconds, sometimes it's more like 5 to 10 seconds of a check-in during work time can be really effective. And another tiny strategy is a quick little comment that you can give your students, like, I noticed you stuck with that problem today, or I was so pleased with how you interacted with that other classmate. Now again, I know these are things that you know, but taking that moment right now to stop and think, oh yeah, maybe I don't do that as much as I hope I would, or as much as I think I do. And give yourself some grace and go into school this next day and try one of these out. Because when students feel seen, really truly seen by their teacher, their willingness to participate will absolutely go up. Another connection that students really need inside the classroom is a connection to their classmates. This is important for so many reasons, but let's focus on how this is so important for engagement, right? Because we're talking about how to effectively combat that student apathy. Now, often teachers will take for granted that our students know each other and are willing to get along. I know I've made this mistake in years past where I've actually assumed that because these students have been in school together for years that they would just know each other and know each other's names. And I remember one year I was doing some beginning of the school year get to know you activities, and it became very evident very quickly that there were so many students that just didn't even know each other existed. It didn't even recognize each other as a classmate that they've been with in the same classroom for 2 or 3 years. It was amazing. And I truly believe that those types of get to know you activities that we do with our students at the beginning of the year should actually be revisited throughout the year as well. That connection, that sense of belonging can make such a huge difference to our students. And if they do not feel that connection to their classmates, it can really contribute to their sense of apathy in the classroom, especially as they get older. What a difference it can make when a student comes into school and truly knows that they have friends and acquaintances waiting to work side by side with them during the day. We're the same way as teachers, right? Going to school every day can be just more joyful if we have people that we work with and that we know and that we like. And the opposite is true as well. If you don't feel like you connect with some of the other adults on your team or in your building or on your floor, boy, it can make for a pretty miserable time at school. I go into this in a little bit more detail in episode 108, where I talk about the importance of peer-to-peer relationships and how to foster that, because I truly believe that we as teachers need to build that type of relationship building into our classrooms in order for our students to be successful. So make sure you go check out episode 108. It's about peer-to-peer relationships. And that's why also inside the reset framework, in the E step that stands for establishing a caring classroom culture, a huge component of that is specifically how to build peer-to-peer relationships. And we go over so many really effective ways to make that happen. But right now, I want you to think about the opportunities that you already give your students to actually work together, right? So maybe you can have a structured partner talk. It's those turn and teach moments that you do for your students. I call it, finding an elbow buddy and talking to your elbow buddy. Maybe it's a micro team challenge that you do. These types of things create opportunities for your students to talk with their classmates, share a responsibility for learning. And without getting on a technology soapbox, this also allows them practice for interacting with other human beings face to face. And if you have students who are really having a hard time getting along or actually knowing what it means to be a friend, I want you to check out episode 84, where I share with you the friendship formula and how to incorporate that into your classroom. Okay, and a third way for students to be able to connect inside the classroom is to connect with the content. And this is where the other E inside that reset framework comes into play. The E that I'm talking about now stands for engagement. And what I've learned and relearned over and over again in my now 27 years of teaching in the classroom and studying some of the best ways that students learn is that utilizing creativity and play and arts integration are the best ways to engage your students. If students only interact with content by listening and filling out worksheets and doing small activities that don't really engage their multiple senses, their brain can check out. And this is why inside the Classroom Reset, I have so many micro engagement strategies that you can test out in your classroom so that you can find the ones that really fit your content, the age level of students that you work with, your teaching style, and of course, the students that are right in front of you. These types of engagement strategies are not ones that will overtake your lesson or cause you to need to create an entire new lesson or project, but they're built so that they become hooks that grab your students' attention and get them actively involved with the content. Creative expression and the arts are so powerful in deepening the engagement and building community in the classroom. It's really a win-win for everyone involved, and it gets students to connect and engage in their learning. So the one simple thing I want you to really just ask yourself right now is, where do you see your students showing apathy? Maybe there's a trend, or maybe there's like a situation, or maybe it's just a specific student that really is showing that apathy in your classroom. And then think about, what kind of connection can I try to help this student to re-engage inside my classroom? So remember, there are 3 ways we can set up this really good connection for your students. Connecting to you, connecting to other classmates, and to get them to connect a little bit more with the content. So what kind of connection do you think you're going to try and foster this week? Be sure to come into our community at theinspiredclassroom.com/community and share. I hope this episode inspired you, encouraged you, or gave you a fresh idea to try. And if so, I would love for you to take a screenshot and text it to one of your teaching buddies. I'm so grateful that you landed here with me today, and it would mean the world to me if you would leave me a review over on Apple Podcast. Thanks so much for being here, and I'll catch you on the next episode. This is Elizabeth Peterson reminding you to get inspired so you can be inspiring to your students and enjoy teaching again.